Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. Ghost Hawk. It's been a minute. Ghost Hawk Brewing. This is their Good Boy Stout. Ghost Hawk. They're in Jersey and they're not super far away from me, but they're far enough to where I can't get there easily. I see their stuff on the shelves. I do. And while I've picked some stuff up, they can be a little bit pricey. That's probably my biggest qualm with Ghost Hawk, because it's like their flagship hazy, instead of being $14.99, it's $17.99. You know, it's like one of those things where everything's just a little bit more than everybody else. So, you know, me being price conscious or whatnot when it comes to beer, just I don't pick their stuff up a ton, but I pick it up every now and then. But it's been a while since I've done a review, so I've actually actively been looking to pick something up. Lo and behold, I went to a bottle shop out and about in North New Jersey, and I saw this, and I was like, wait, what's this? Imperial Stout aged in Applejack brandy barrels. You're speaking my language. $15.99 for a 750 milliliter Imperial Stout in apple brandy barrels. It's sold. I come home. I'm curious. I guess they kind of, change the barrels every couple of years. Sometimes it's apple brandy, Applejack, things like that. 4 months it's spent in the barrel. Kind of curious to see how this sucker goes down. For me, like, anything under 6 is just, nah. Just, even 6 I think is a little bit kind of like pushing it. In the best of worlds, 10 to 12 months minimum. 2 years. I mean, I haven't been around all that long, so you understand the timing. 4 months. I'm really curious to see what kind of flavor we get imparted from those barrels. But anyway, we're going to dive into it and give us our thoughts. What else is on the bottle? A Good Boy Stout, Imperial Stout, aged in Lairds Applejack barrels. 12% alcohol by volume. Ghost Hawk Brewing Company, Clifton, New Jersey. Wax. I haven't cut a wax bottle in a long time. Hopefully I don't cut my nose off or something. And this is thick. This is thick wax. I might have to. There's probably a way easier way to cut wax. I'm just horrible at it. So what I do is I just try to get as fast as humanly possible to the wax, or to the cap, and then brute force it open, as I am to do with a ton of other things. We're almost there, baby. This is the scintillating part of the review. You watch me struggle with wax. It's weird because the top, actually, there's not a ton of wax in the top. It gets really thick right where the crown of the cap meets the edge of the bottle. So I think we're there. Come on, catch. Got a little hiss. There we go. Boom. Boom, schlock, lock, boom. So, let's see. It's got a dog on it. Who's gonna hate on that? So on the pour, looks like decent carb. It's not super thick. It's not the thickest beer in the history of mankind, but it looks quite nice. Pretty sure, actually I know this is the 2023 version. We're in 2024 now, but I'm almost certain this came out either middle or end of summer. Let's slide that sucker over here, and then look at it from here. Label-wise, I actually do really like it. Any label with a dog on it, I'm always going to get kind of hot and bothered. But the layout, design, the whole thing, I really dig it as far as the beer goes. I mean, it looks a part of a nice Imperial Stout. Rich, thick, has that nice kind of eking towards, or probably a little bit darker than I like my coffee look like colored head. The head has this little, like, what's the best way I could put it? A milkiness look to it that makes me think there's going to be a super creamy kind of mouthfeel to it. And it's dark. Again, it's not like Super 3 C's thick dark. It poured more brown than closer to black, but it looks the part of what you'd expect from an Imperial Stout. Let's see if we can get a nose. It smells quite nice, man. There's a nice sweetness to it. And by that I mean, it's an Applejack barrel Imperial Stout. So, but only 4 months, so you're wondering again how much that spirit and barrel is going to impart in the beer, but there is this sweetness that has to be coming from the Applejack that's not coming from the stout. Now, there is a sweetness from the stout. It's got a nice roasty toastiness to it with a bit of sweet maltiness, a bit of chocolate, sweet chocolates. Everything in here comes off sweet, not cloyingly sweet, overly sweet, super pastry sweet, but there's a tinge of sweetness to everything. And in a way, I really do kind of dig it. A little confectionery, not like lactosey, but a little confectionery in that sweetness. But it's nice to see, or smell, I should say, that spirit kind of match up to the way the actual beer itself is kind of holding up. A little bit of Applejack vibes, a nice sweet maltiness to it, nothing too crazy. And I think I'm getting like a vanilla, little charriness to it. So the barrel could show up a little bit more than I'm expecting, but it has a really nice aromatic to it. It's not punching you in the face. It's not a 2x4 of huge barrel-aged stoutiness, because stoutiness is definitely a word. But it smells nice. Curious. Let's dive in. Cheers. Okay. It's actually, the spirit here is pretty well represented, so I'm guessing it was a pretty wet barrel, because there is a little tinge of heat on it too. So it's not, that time wasn't ineffective, I should say. But there's a little bit of kind of melding of the beer and the barrel and the spirit that's kind of lost here. And it could be a time thing. I think it's more of, again, time spent in the barrel thing. I think you bump this to 6 to 8, preferably 10 to 12 months. I think there's a little bit more of a cohesiveness between the beer and the barrel and the spirit. Because what you have here, not overly dense, not overly thick, Imperial Stout, with nice roasty toastiness. Kind of drinks like a Russian Imperial Stout. A not overly bittering Russian Imperial Stout, but, a nice bittering forward stout that isn't too overly sweet. Because it comes off less sweet in the taste than you expect it based off of the nose. And you get a soft little kind of, little vanilla, little barrel char here. Nothing too crazy. Again, time spent in the barrel. It's not going to show too crazy to begin with. But it's nice. It's not overpowering. And then you get to the Applejack's portion of the show. It's definitely present there. You get a little bit of tinge of heat on the beer. I believe that's coming all from the Applejack. I believe it's a very wet barrel that they used. or barrels that they used. And it comes off almost like a little bit like, I would call it Canadian whiskey on the tongue. For me, Canadian whiskey has this little bit of abrasiveness that comes off more specifically on my tongue than anywhere else. Maybe that's a weird thing that's only applicable to me, or it's an actual thing with Canadian whiskey. Probably shitty Canadian whiskey, to be perfectly honest with you. I have this little tinge of this little aggressive, abrasive heat thing on my tongue, which I'm almost certain is coming from the Applejack. That lets me know the spirit is there. It's not unpleasant. It's not a negative thing by any stretch of imagination. It just let me know that there's something there a bit more aggressive than the beer itself. Done and done. It's nice. It's fine. It's a bit thin for what it is. 12% barrel-aged stout. I definitely want a bit more robustness to it. I think the beer is a little bit meek, too. It doesn't come off... How do I put it? The beer is a little bit meek. The beer doesn't come off as very showy or robust. But if you go to the other flip side of things, which is me talking about the spirit and the amount of time this spent in the barrel, it's the appropriate level of time for this beer. I think if you let this sit in the barrel 6, 8, 12 months plus, then I think the barrel just completely, in spirit, completely overtakes the beer, and all you get is booze. So I think you need a little bit more of a denser, richer beer, and a bit more time. So it's not a singular thing. It's not like, the beer could be a little bit better, and then this is better, or it could have spent more time in the barrel, and that would have made it better. I think this beer is appropriate for the barrel level of what's in it. And then it gives you a nice, roasty, Russian Imperial Stout-esque kind of beer in a nice, present Applejack barrel with a little bit of barrel characteristic. If you turn the volume up, any of those pieces, I think they outweigh each other. So there's a balance to all the ingredients involved. But was what I was trying to allude to earlier. I think the time in the barrel adds a lot of cohesiveness to beer. So this tastes like a stout in a barrel that had Applejack in it, not all those ingredients together. They're a little bit disconnected. And I think the ultimate goal of Bonkers, my personal Mount Rushmore status level Imperial Stout, in barrel aged Imperial Stout, is having that vibrance and that cohesiveness. And yeah, it's on. This is a nice foray into the barrel aged beers of Ghost Hawk. I'm curious to try other stuff that they've done, but I'm curious to see if they do this in a different form or fashion, in a different variant, and if they change it, or, my words here, improve upon it, because it's my good first start in the barrel itself. Because everything I've had from now on, and from the beginning, has been just hazies and lagers and stuff like that, and they've all been really good. So I'm glad I picked it up. Let's put it that way. So there you go. Is it one of the better barrel-aged stouts that I've had as of late? It's not Mount Rushmore stout. It's fine. It's tasty. I don't mind that I picked it up, and it's a good experience, especially for the price point. $7.50, can't go wrong. Off the shelf, like I said, and leave you with, if you like what, will you like this? If you like Imperial Stouts, you like Applejack, Apple Brandy, you like barrel, you want something that's, I don't mean this as a slight, a bit more drinkable, not as hair on fire, I think this will do you, because this reminds me a lot of barrel-aged beers that first came out, especially a lot of English barrel-aged beers and stuff like that, to where it's a little bit more subtle. So if that's your jam, you'll dig this. Ghost Hawk, have you been to the brewery? I still haven't been there. How horrible of me, being so close. Have you been to the brewery? Have you had their beers? Have you had this beer? What's your favorite beer from Ghost Hawk? All that fun stuff down there. Hopefully enjoyed a review. Hopefully enjoying a little bit of barrel-aged goodness right now. Hope we'll see you next time. Cheers, y'all.